Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's stream. I'm excited. I got a very special guest tonight. Tonight, we're going to learn about the actual process of moving itself. So, I wanted to bring on a pro to give us some tips and tricks and that sort of thing to learn about the moving process. So, uh, I think it'll be really interesting. But tonight's guest is Kira McGahan, and she owns Movers and Shakers. It's a moving company. And without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Kira. Hey, Kira, how you doing?
Hi, David. Good.
All
You?
right, terrific. Well, hey, I appreciate you being on tonight's stream. I'm excited to learn more about the moving process, and I get a kick out of your website because and I'll share this with folks so they can see this. Kira, you make moving fun and easy.
Yes.
So that is terrific. So I'm anxious to learn about how to make moving fun and easy. So that's going to be a fun thing. But hey, we got some folks in the chat tonight. So let's see who's in the chat. We got Clark. Clark says, "Good evening, David." Thank you, Clark. All right, thanks for joining the show. And we also have James Clark. All right, James. Well, thanks for joining tonight, and excited to have you guys in the chat. So feel free to ask any questions and that sort of thing, and take advantage of the knowledge that Kira has to provide for us. So I'm excited about that. So, Kira, give us a little background about. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got how movers and shakers got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Midwest native, I guess you would say. I grew up in South Dakota, um,
Okay.
really small town. And then slowly my family started to migrate towards Omaha. It's kind of what you do, the big city. It's either Sioux Falls or Omaha. Um,
Yep.
so we came to Omaha, and I lived here for quite a while, did a small stint in Colorado,
Okay.
had my two kids, and then came back to have family help me with them. So we came back home,
Yep.
and I helped found a recruiting company,
Okay.
bank recruiting, and been doing that for about 10 years. And then about a year and a half ago, just started really making friends with a lot of real estate agents,
Hmm.
mortgage loan people from my recruiting, and just saw that a lot of people are moving to Omaha, and
Right.
the moving industry isn't saturated here by any means.
Yeah.
So just kind of saw a need for it and wanted to, offer a full service moving type company to offer to people that already live here and want to move within the metro or are looking to come to the metro or move out. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. Now you came from South Dakota. What was kind of like your biggest surprise about Omaha? What's one of the things that you'd like? Because we get a lot of folks that relocate that watch the channel.
yeah,
What's one of the things that kind of surprised you about Omaha? That something that you really liked and something that you don't like?
yeah. Everything, the joke we always say, everything takes 20 minutes to get to in Omaha. So if it's a 6 mile drive, it's going to take you 20 minutes. So I think people don't realize that it's not hard to navigate, but it does take a while to get from point A to point B. The thing I do like is if where you live, you don't really have to leave that area. They pretty much
Gotcha.
have enough stuff and where you're at, so that's nice too. So
No, that's a great point. No, thanks for sharing. Now, Karen, what sets your company apart from other moving services in Omaha?
I would say we're different as to where we do the packing, we do um, home cleanouts, we'll do
Okay.
donations, we'll do junk hauling, anything tailored to get the client or the family moving completely out of their home with just hiring one service. Um,
Okay.
so that's kind of what we aim to do is just help them get completely cleared out of their space so they're ready to move into their new
So
home.
you do the clean out stuff as well. So if somebody wanted to hire you just for the clean out part,
Yeah.
you take care of that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Because sometimes if it's an estate sale, you might run into that. I'm sure you've run into that situation before as well.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Yep, that's a good example.
Okay, and what areas do you typically serve, and do you handle out of state moves?
Yeah, so right now we are focusing on, I would say there again, that greater Midwest area, anywhere from
Okay.
Des Moines, Omaha, Lincoln, Sioux Falls, Sioux City,
Okay.
Council Bluffs. That's where we're really honed in on. We do have people, and we have contracted with other moving companies.
Hmm.
For example, if someone's moving from Seattle and they're driving two full U-Hauls to Omaha,
Okay.
we have what's called manpower moves, where we'll
Ah,
send our movers to just help the family unload their trucks when they get into the city here.
that's got to be nice after the drive. I would think that would be, yeah, that would be it. That's a great service, right there. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they're hiring a moving company?
I would think, and I don't think people mean to make this as a mistake. I think they often misjudge how much stuff that they have.
Okay.
Or when we're in the thick of moving and the time's gone by and they're like, "Oh no, I still have all this stuff." It's
Right.
it just becomes overwhelming sometimes.
Okay.
Another mistake is people sometimes they want to hire the cheapest moving company.
Yeah.
So that's not always a great thing. Uh,
Right.
and then I always tell people when they're hiring movers to read the reviews of the moving company, look at the website,
Hmm.
check that they're licensed and insured. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, just make sure they ask a lot of questions when booking their mover.
Okay. Okay. And what about when should someone start planning their move? Especially if they're, um, how far out would you advise people to reach out to a mover? Whether it be, is there a difference if they're going out of state or staying in town? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, in town we can usually do I would say a quick turnover. 2 weeks
Oh,
is always nice. I would say at least
okay,
in town. If someone's moving out of town or coming into town, I would say 30 days. Um,
gotcha.
but we're in like what other moving companies I would say they would agree with this. We're in the heart and the thick of moving season right now, or
Oh, yeah,
home,
yeah,
yeah, homes are selling and
right.
people are relocating, and so during the spring summer, I would say 60 to 90 days. Try to get a mover booked, and that way you can have enough time to, coordinate. I think when people book a mover, they think they're going to book the mover and not see them till moving day. Well, no,
Right.
you're constantly coordinating with your mover because a lot of times,
Okay.
yeah, a lot of times they're like, "Well, I ended up selling half my stuff," or the buyer
Okay.
decided to keep my couch and this bedroom furniture. So we're always trying to get an update on where the homeowner is at in their moving process. So
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I never. Yeah, and Clark has a question here. Do you guys offer unpacking services once the things have been moved?
we do locally. Yep, we can unpack. We also have organizers and stuff like that that we can contract out that we refer to clients if they want a more organized approach to it. But we can definitely
Gotcha.
unpack.
Mhm.
A lot of people do like us to unpack their garages, all that heavy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's got, yeah, yeah, no, that's a good question. What um what should someone look for when they're choosing a moving company? Kind of talked about that before, reviews and talk about the insurance side of it. What should they look for as far as, is there kind of any kind of licensing as well, or how
Yeah,
does that work?
yeah, that's a great question. So when I got started, I didn't know how thorough the process is, but to be licensed and insured in the state of Nebraska as a legal moving company, there's a lot of forms you have to fill out, and then you actually go through the Nebraska commissioner, and
Okay.
they send you everything you need to apply for, all the licensing that you'll need, all the insurances that you'll need, anything from
Okay.
to general liability.
Right.
And then once you make contact with a good insurance agent, get all those documents, get your COIs, then you
Hmm.
send them into the commissioner, and then they actually vote on whether or
Oh,
not to
really?
operate in the state of.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Okay. James has a question here. Do you also help pack? And
Yes, yes, we also help.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's great. Um, Now, can you explain the difference between a binding versus a non-binding moving estimate, or maybe explain what that exactly is?
Yeah. So a non-binding is like an open-ended estimate where we try
Okay.
to give as accurate as we can as for an hour how long the move's gonna last. So we'll say this move in your three-bedroom home is expected to last anywhere between 5.5 and 6.5 hours.
Okay.
But maybe the stairs took longer, it added an extra 30 minutes. So there's just that understanding of subject to change in a non-binding estimate.
Okay.
Binding is the client and the movers agree on one price quote, and that's what's paid no matter what the circumstances during the move.
Gotcha. Now, what do you typically see? Do you see more non-binding or binding? What do you typically see with that then?
We try to strive for more non-binding just because it leads to more accuracy, I would say.
Right, because I mean, once you get into stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
um, how tricky is that to give an estimate? I mean, um,
Yeah,
you go into, I would think that'd be really because I think that would be tough to do. I mean, I wouldn't even want to know what my house would take to move because
yeah, yeah, that's where, like, we're getting lucky that technology is helping a lot. Like, there's
oh,
they can, pretty much do full circle around someone's square footage and kind of help guide us in how long a move will take based on
is that right?
yeah,
Okay, wow,
yes, there's
okay,
apps that they're not 100% accurate either, but just full disclosure at all times is the best.
right, right. No, okay. Clark has another question here. Can someone track the progress of the move when using your company services? That's a good question.
Someone track the progress. Um, I mean, they can. I, yeah, I would say so. A lot of the times, the clients right out there, we're touching base. A supervisor will call and say, "Hey, how's it going?"
Okay,
The movers understand that the more they hustle, the more the client's watching them take good care of their items
right.
and striving to get the job done in a cautious, speedy manner. That's the best
Yeah.
way to do
I mean, I'm thinking 5 to 6 hours. Boy, those you got to hire some. That's some hard working folks. See.
it. Yeah. I mean, there's even moves sometimes, and we've had to learn this the hard way. If it's 10 hours, you have to switch out your crew because they're tired. So,
I could, and you said talk about the movers that you hire. I thought that was interesting when we was talking before the show started. Tell us a little about the folks that you hire. I thought that was interesting.
yeah. So, for the summer and leading into the fall, we have made contact with a couple of the local college football teams here.
Okay.
We thought that they would be good hires because they're dedicated.
Right.
They are, I would say, self-motivated, and they also
Right.
know how to appropriately maneuver their body in lifting heavy items. So,
Exactly. Yeah. That. Because yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Now, what factors influence the cost of a move?
yeah, the cost of the move comes and the way we do it, and actually to my understanding, the way that the state commissioner had you operate as a moving
Mhm.
company in Nebraska, it is based on an hourly rate. And that
Okay.
hourly rate is determined, the price of the hourly rate is determined by how many movers you have, how many trucks you're going to be using. And then it's
Gotcha.
really broken down on pricing. On our website, we do have our pricing per hour
Okay.
laid out so people can get a general idea of what they are going to be paying per hour based on how many bedrooms are in their home and how much stuff that they have.
Gotcha.
So it just gives them. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives them a good guideline.
Right. Right. And then, like I said, there, um, the website moversandshakers.ne.com, correct? And then your phone number there is at the bottom, so
Yep.
they can reach out to you a number of different ways. Um, what are there any hidden fees that people should be aware of when they're hiring a mover?
Yeah, I think people should always ask, "Am I going to be charged per mile?" Um,
Okay.
I think people should always ask, "When is the move technically started?" Is it starting when the movers leave the depot with their trucks? Is it starting when you load the first box into the back of the trailer? And
Oh,
does it
okay.
does it end when the last box is loaded, or does it end when the movers return back to the depot? So there's questions like
Oh,
um,
okay.
there's a lot of material that goes into every move, between
Right.
like wrapping, blanketing, boxing TVs, boxing mattresses. So a lot of times the client is responsible for paying the material fees to make sure their stuff is protected during their move.
Gotcha. What about situations to where folks have, it's not quite a double move, but maybe there's a day or two that they're in limbo while their house is closed and then they can't move into their new place. Do you have any solutions for those types of folks?
Yeah, well, we've kind of had to invent one because that has
Okay.
quite a bit.
Wow. Yeah.
People kind of get into a panic based on when they're getting their keys or when they're getting, when they have to be out of their permit.
Right.
So we now do what's called an overnight hold service, where we
Okay.
hold the client's goods in our trucks. They are lighted, cameraed, but they have to be aware that it is kind of a risk that their stuff is overnight in our truck and trailers. So
Right.
we charge a flat fee to hold stuff overnight. So we would do like
Okay.
a part move where we would move the day before, hold their items, and then unload the trucks in their new home the next day.
Well, that sounds like a great service because I've seen some situations where I've had transactions where
Mhm.
somebody wasn't out yet and somebody's moving in, and boy, that is not a fun situation at all.
We ran
Oh,
into it too, where our moving trucks here pulling Mr. and Mrs. Jones out while Mr. and Mrs. Jones are coming in with their moving truck. And
yeah. Oh, and dependability means an awful lot.
yes,
People have to be there, and like you say, you got to make sure that's because sometimes, like I said, I've seen it. And I had this one poor guy that um, he just didn't. You try to guide them to like, hey, hey, you need to. And he was doing it himself,
yeah,
and boy, it was just a nightmare. And the new people showed up, and it was just not very much fun. No,
yeah,
not.
stressful. Yeah.
Um, okay, James says, does your company only service in the state of Nebraska? No, you do the surrounding. James might not be from. He's
Oh,
not from Omaha, so he. Um, but yeah, you go to Iowa and South Dakota, correct?
yeah, yeah. The tri-state area, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then Clark has another question here. Uh, how does it work during the holiday seasons? Are there certain holidays you guys don't operate? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I would say we're probably don't work Christmas Day and New Year's. Otherwise,
Okay.
I feel like last Christmas around that time, Thanksgiving through New Year's, we were pretty busy because
Is
people
that
are
right?
gonna be in their new homes before the
Right.
holidays. So,
Right.
yeah, those
Now,
are always really grateful clients if you can get them into their home before.
right. I'm just surprised when you say 5 to 6 hours. I'm thinking, man, those guys must be hustling because.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but and you brought up some really good questions earlier about, and I didn't even think about that in terms of when does the move start and when does it end?
Mhm.
What questions should people ask when getting a quote from a moving company?
Um, I would always have them ask, "Are you licensed and insured? What's
Mhm.
gonna happen if you guys break?" Because it's not when, it's or if, it's when it happens. Stuff gets
Right.
dinged and scratched up, and stuff's awkward, and sometimes spaces are awkward. So
Yeah.
we just always try to let them know that if anything happens, we will take care of them, whether that's an insurance claim or we
Okay.
network with a bunch of flooring companies, painters, anybody that
Okay.
we can trust to refer and go take care of the client if there was
'Cause-
a whoopsie. So
yeah, because that's gonna happen just because it's you're moving something and things like that. Uh, what about what about tipping? Is that standard? Do you see that very often?
Yeah, our movers, I would say they do get tipped quite often.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and it's really, if the client sees that they were, taking great care of their stuff and were friendly and just making the whole day smoother um,
Right.
for them, then yeah, most clients do tip, and it doesn't even have to be money. Sometimes people will buy them pizza at the end of the shift. If it's a super hot day, they'll have bottles of water or
Yeah.
stop the clock and take a 30-minute breather. Just being as gracious to the
You
mover
know,
as they are to the clients, it just makes for a very stress-free day.
that's because that is hard work, and to do that day in and day out, I'm thinking, man, that's
Yeah.
you got to be a young guy and be strong on that, because that just seems like they would just be tough on the old body. What are your top three packing tips for people moving themselves?
How we say declutter before you even start packing. So
Okay.
it really takes away from being overwhelmed. Um,
Right.
people think, a lot of times people think Home Depot and Lowe's is the place to go for boxes. It's not.
Mhm.
Ask any of your local grocery stores. Um,
Okay.
any gas, try to get your boxes at a good rate because people are just throwing them away anyway.
Right.
Then I would always say when packing anything that can fit into a box, put it
Mhm.
in a box. A lot of times people just have like loose stuff everywhere and it just becomes messy and it rolls around and gets lost. So I always say the more boxes, the better. If it fits in
Right.
a box, put it in a box.
I gotta, I got when this goes back 26 years when, and my wife is one of those folks that likes to do things herself. Just that's just the way she's built, and we didn't have a truck, and so we had this little tiny Toyota Tercel.
Just going back and forth
Yes.
hundreds of times.
Yeah, I mean, there's hopefully she doesn't watch the stream, but it was, and then, well, I don't want to get in trouble, but I mean,
Yeah.
well, then she decided, you know, we were moving out of this Tercel, okay, making 100 trips back and forth, and then she decided to have a garage sale at the new place and not at the old place,
Oh,
and I'm like, what? Then I was like, because we were moving. It was. We laugh about it now, but
yeah.
at the time it was not.
It was
Yeah,
not
I
fun
mean, we could have. I could have given you 3 tips that you don't do.
during moving. Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Everybody's got a moving war story.
and it's yeah, it that was painful. Okay. Are there items that you recommend people move themselves rather than trust to movers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always send out a moving to do and not
Okay.
to like it's an email that goes to the upcoming clients, and I always say any family heirlooms because those really are irreplaceable, even with
Right.
insurance.
Yep.
Any expensive jewelry,
Okay.
firearms,
Yep.
alcohol, and legally we can't move anything flammable. Um,
Okay.
so propane tanks they got to take with them. Uh,
Gotcha.
we also recommend that they always unplug any washers, dryers, deep freezes, refrigerators, TVs.
Okay. Have that disconnected first.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So the
oh, yeah,
hose doesn't break and then all of a sudden you're a flood situation.
right.
That makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Yeah. That makes, yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
And then
What advice?
animals, they can move
Wait, say that again.
plants and animals. That's another big one that we stress that they move themselves.
Right. Right. um, this kind of dovetails into this question here. What advice for someone trying to move with kids or pets?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always say, if grandma's around for the day, send them with grandma. Family
Okay.
members, it's just so stressful, and they're
Right.
asking questions, and they're confused, and the pet senses that something's, not right. And so
Right.
I would say if you have a family member that can, just take them away for a little bit, to ease the day, that's best case scenario.
Well, I mean, because it's really dangerous with kids and moving and things like that. I mean, I know of someone that a dresser fell on they were moving and the dresser fell on the little and broke her leg and things like that. It was just horrible. But yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And you kind of talked about this. Are there items that movers can't legally move? You said the firearms, something that's flammable,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
What about advice for someone moving during extreme weather, either the really, really hot summer or during the winter?
Um, I would say patience is a big one. Weather is always out of our control. Um, if it's
Right,
too icy, it just doesn't make sense to move that day. So if we are
right.
able to reschedule, great. If not, our movers
Okay,
can make it work, but it just takes a little more time, because
gotcha.
trying not to slip. Hot days, just stay hydrated, layer, take breaks. Um,
Okay.
so yeah.
Now, let's see. Park Clark has another question here. Do you move items like a hot tub, pool table, those big items?
We do not do that's a great question. We do not do hot tubs, pool tables, or pianos. There's
Okay,
certain slides and contraptions that are needed to move those specialty type items.
gotcha.
If if we don't have those items, so those are things that we contract. We have contacts here in Omaha that specifically move those specific things.
Yeah, I think that would be really. Um, Now, let's say somebody is moving during winter. You know, well, it's going to take longer, so that just got to factor that in for another hour of moving or something like that in terms of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
or if they need a maybe we go 4 hours and it starts to really snow and get slick, like, they maybe best case scenario, they're flexible to let us come unload the next day or something like that, so.
Now, I'm going to ask this question. This wasn't on my question list, but I'm
Mhm.
going to ask it anyway. And I mean, I know the answer is probably it all depends, but if you could say there was a typical 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage with 2 kids and just kind of like the normal allotment of goods, what's kind of what would you say would be a you know kind of a ballpark time frame and price range for that? I don't even know if that's you
Yeah,
know
no, that's fine.
do you see like a trend, like, okay, it runs you about this or about that?
Yeah, you said three-bedroom home?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a three-bedroom, let's say tri-level home, we'd probably send in 5 to 6 movers. It would
Okay.
take to load and unload about 2 trucks, anywhere between 6 and 7 hours.
Okay.
So those moves are usually anywhere between like 2,400 to 3,200.
Wow, that's very reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and most would say worth it.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
wait till you try to move. Wait till you try to do it with a
it's
Toyota
cheaper. It's cheaper than
Tercel.
it's cheaper than a hospital bill or something.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Um, what are and you came from South Dakota, so this next question here: what are the challenges people face when relocating to Omaha for the first time?
Challenges. Yeah, I guess it just depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from a huge city to,
Mhm.
Omaha might be maybe just a little bit smaller. I would say from a moving standpoint, the
Mhm.
roads and parking everywhere are so limited. So we have to be
Okay,
very strategic in, Google mapping the addresses before our trucks even show up. So we know
is that right?
where
Yeah.
we're gonna park. Are we gonna have the side road? Are you not allowed to park there? Is the driveway big enough? How many cars does the family have? Are they gonna have to move some cars out to let us in? So trying to have
Okay,
a good plan just based on our location.
gotcha.
It does get
Okay.
tougher in the downtown areas.
I
Blacks.
imagine downtown, that's got to be, or Blackstone. I think that would be really tricky because you can't park there when you're just trying to get a thing of ice cream, you know? Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. I mean, a moving truck, a big moving truck, what that's like. That's gotta, yeah, that.
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll be in discussion with even the property manager at a apartment building or condo, and just to get their recommendation on how we think we should now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
See, and that's where I think somebody hiring a pro is going to be better off. Um, because you sometimes you don't even know, and you know you learn the hard way, and it's going to cost you time
Right.
and aggravation. And if you can have somebody, and you also said this was a thing that people like to do, and you really discourage people from doing that, and that is helping you.
Yeah.
When you're talk about that for a minute, because I think that's important for people to know. Because I think people, especially from people from Omaha, we try to be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Midwest nice, Nebraska nice, all that sort of good thing. But
I
that's not a good idea, is it?
No, it's not the best idea. First of all, I always say you hired us to make your life easier today, so sit back and allow us, to help you and do it.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think people do it because they think it's gonna rush the process. We're gonna get done faster,
Right.
and then like that Midwest nights, like you think. I think a lot of people just feel bad watching people move their stuff, so they feel like they have to get in and help. But what a lot of people don't know is that it's actually dangerous for them to help us. If they're
Right.
trying to load and unload on our trailers, trucks, if the
Okay.
truck wasn't parked right or a trailer wasn't secure and they got hurt, then that would be on us. So it's pretty big liability if a client chooses to help. So if they mention that they do want to help, I always note it and state it in the contract for insurance purposes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I can trust you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not helping. um, and we kind of talked about this already, which I was kind of surprised. I thought the number would be further out, but how far in advance should someone book a mover if they're moving during the busy season?
Yeah, during the busy season, I would say at least 30 days.
At least 30 days. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there a day of the week that you typically see that are like busier? Like, is it more of the weekends, or what do you guys usually see if there's a time? Is there a certain day of the week that's fills up faster than others?
Yeah, I would say your typical younger family moves on the weekends just because they're working and kids are in school. So it just gives them the opportunity to have the time and flexibility and freedom to move on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
We do move a lot of seniors into different homes or help them downsize. And I would say those are more of our weekly type moves. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Um, we talked a little bit about this. What are some other red flags to look for when hiring a mover?
I would say if the mover doesn't ask the client enough questions, if they just kind of like, "Yep, we're good to go," then the day's gonna be a nightmare. So even though people think it's supposed to kind of just be a cut and dry types, when booking your mover, they're kind of like, "Okay, I booked you. This is what it's gonna cost." There's just actually a lot to it. So the more patient people are in asking the dispatchers, in answering the dispatcher's question or whoever it is booking the move, just taking the time to be as thorough as they can. And people actually do a pretty good job. I always have people sending me videos of their house or heavier items, letting me know if there's 3 bedrooms or if something's coming out of a basement that doesn't have a walkout, or if there's an attic that a treadmill has to come down, just stuff like that. That way our movers aren't surprised. And every move, the movers do have to pack the truck with the right materials and equipment needed for that specific move. So that's why any moving company takes the time and does their due diligence in asking a bunch of questions.
Okay, and I would, and like I said, it's been a long time since I've moved, and I don't even know what I don't know about this. I mean, I've helped a lot of people, move over the course of my career, but when they get to the moving part, I'm like, hey, that's, that's not my gig. I want people out, and that I know how uncomfortable that is.
Yeah.
How can someone verify? When we talk about a lot about insurance, how can somebody? Is there any way to verify that a mover is legit and insured?
Yeah. Yep. Actually, if you do go to the State of Nebraska Commission's website and their page,
Okay.
they have all the legally operating moving companies in Nebraska listed on their site.
Okay. See, I didn't. Any horror stories or cautionary tales you can share without naming names or anything?
Um, yeah, I would say more chaotic. For one that we had, and it happened when we started moving, was we had a family that called us at 9 a.m. and needed to be out of the home by noon. So we had like 8 movers, just anybody that could pick up a box, just helping this family.
Wow. And you got it done?
We
They
got it.
called you they called you at 9.
Their agent called us at 9 with an SOS situation.
Wow. Wow. Jeez.
That was a victory. We did a victory lap actually.
That I hope they got a good tip on that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow,
And
that
a
is
lot of people.
impressive. You made an agent friend for life on that one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would hope so. Well, because
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of people think that they can do it on their own and they have enough time, and that's kinda what this situation was. They got a little in over their head, got
Okay.
overwhelmed, and just had to have someone come clean house quickly, so.
Well, that would have, I mean, I wish I had this. My horror story was a couple years ago. When I more, it was, I don't know, it felt like yesterday because it was so fresh. I'm still traumatized over it. But man, I wish I would have had your number back then because it was. I was like, oh Lord, yeah, it was a disaster. Okay, we got another. Let's see. Do you have to have specific insurance if you're moving items from a high-rise building like a condo unit, etc., or is it still the same as standard insurance? That's a good question.
That is a good question, and that that would cause me to do my homework in that because I'm not sure. So our general liability covers anything while we're moving.
Okay.
So our cargo insurance covers anything while we're in transit. So
Okay.
I would assume that that would cover something like that, but I will find out. So
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Is there one thing every mover wishes clients knew?
oh, one thing. I would kind of segue back to you don't have to help us. We hired you hired us and people are I would moving's not for the faint of heart, not for the movers and not for the client. And it's anxious and it's people's stuff. And that's their home is when they're moving their stuff. So
Right.
I would just say to just take a deep breath. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask your mover to go the extra step. If you had every
Okay.
intention on reassembling your bed in your new home, but you're just tired because the day got away from you, ask your mover to assemble the bed quickly because there's on average 4 to 5 of them that can get it together. Will it take a couple more minutes? Yes. Is it worth it if you're tired and worn out and don't want to be doing it until the wee hours
Right.
of the morning?
Right.
Totally
Yeah,
worth
that seems completely worth. I mean, and they say as an agent, you should move every couple of years just to go through the pain of it,
that
as
process.
an, you know, so you have more empathy for your client.
Yeah.
And I'm not moving until until the wife wants to move. So that's the way that's going to work. I mean, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I've had people like add on to their home just so they don't have to move. So I had somebody tell me that the other day. I was like, oh,
yeah, 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 though I can completely understand. What's the strangest thing you've been ever asked to move? What's the weirdest thing that you've ever had to move? Is there something that stands out?
We had a situation where it was more of a home clean out.
Okay.
Just, I would say there was just hundreds of dolls dismantled everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So just
Okay.
porcelain dolls. So that one was a little bizarre, but we're
And
pretty
that's a little creepy. You're not,
creepy.
yeah. I mean, I would that kind of like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Sometimes, they're, yeah.
I
You're
understand.
looking at the dolls looking at you, and you're kind of like freaked out about it. I would think that would be, yeah, that would, yeah, I could completely be freaked out by that. Um, what about, is there like a quick checklist or like someone preparing for moving day? You say you send out an email and that sort of thing.
Yep,
Um,
yep. I send out a moving to do's, to don't do's, and the checklist is just, I said, make sure everything's unplugged, everything
okay.
had boxed up. Part of the checklist is just uh, communicating with us throughout the process. Like, hey, I thought I had time to box up my garage, but I don't. Are you guys able
Right.
to do that? That way we're aware instead of just showing up and they're like, oh, my garage is not boxed up, so.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I'm getting is the communication aspect of it is you gotta start communicating with that move. I think that is an incredible takeaway that just people are not aware of.
Yeah.
And because I can see that, well, I can see that happening as sure as anything, because it's like, okay, you're going to run out of time or something happened, but
Mhm.
by giving that mover a heads up, maybe they can add another person to the crew.
Mhm.
And that's that is a great point. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then kind of my last question is, how can people get in touch with you, and or how to get a quote from you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's multiple ways we have on our website. There's a quick contact form that you can fill out. There's a quick one, and then there's a more detailed one.
Okay.
Once that form is filled out, it comes straight to me, and I try to reach out over the phone. If you don't answer when I call, I shoot you a text just letting you know who we are and that we received your inquiry. Um,
Okay.
People also reach out through our Facebook page quite a bit
Okay.
because they saw an ad or they saw a post, and
Or a live stream.
or great. I think this would be awesome. Um, yeah, just any social media platform works.
Okay.
Or sometimes we'll have people that just got referred and they just have my cell phone from somebody. So I always tell
Gotcha.
people I have my phone on me 24/7. I always try to call back or answer as soon as I can
Right.
because I understand
Well,
how
I
it works.
mean, and
Anything.
don't wait to the day of the move to say, "Hey, we need to be out by noon." That I don't know what I mean. I don't know. I don't even want to know how. That's pretty incredible. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said,
We're
that
here
could have.
in our movers' eyes. They talk about that today. So
Oh, yeah. It was like I said. I had a guy that he just got over his head. If we had somebody that we could have called, it would have been so helpful, because man, it was not a comfortable situation. Well, I tell you what, I learned a great deal tonight, Kira. I really appreciate it. And any last words of advice or anything else that we didn't cover that we should cover?
I don't think so. I think the questions were great. I love that people can shop for movers. It's not a simple transaction. I mean, some people, um, it's just with anything. It's relationship building. It's who you feel comfortable with. It's read those reviews, check on the websites, check. I think it's great that people know that they can, like you mentioned, just go on the state's website and see if they're operating legally. And
I
if
didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was even. I just thought we was kind of just taking their word for it, and your hope. Yeah.
yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's, oh yeah, you know,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's good to know that they can actually go back and check on that. That's really important, because yeah, it's um, that liability thing is a big deal. And
Yeah.
but I think a lot of great stuff was shared tonight. I really appreciate it. I know you're really busy, so anything else that you can think of that we need to know, or anything else we need to anything else that you can think of?
I don't think so, David. I just really appreciate you having me on here tonight.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it, and it's been fun. It's always fun to great questions from the chat. I always appreciate Clark stopping by, but I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, and it'll be on replay. I had one of my clients; they couldn't attend tonight. She's usually in the chat, so she'll catch it on the replay. But I appreciate, and I won't call you at 9 o'clock for a 12 o'clock rescue, but that number.
Anything, call.
It might be 8:30.
Fair enough.
But thank you so much, Kira. I really appreciate it. You have a great evening. Thank you again.
You too. Thank you.
You betcha. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Well, hey, any other last comments in the chat? Anything else? Clark, it's always great to see you on the chat. Thank you very much. And anyway, we'll catch if we're on our way to 5,000 subs. So if you subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate it. And then everybody, you have a great evening and you make it a great night. Thanks again.